Thank you everybody for joining us. This is a portfolio tip session with us in admissions. My name is Molly Pettingill. I'm the Associate Director for Graduate Recruitment. And with me, I have Jennifer Hewins, who is the Recruitment Coordinator for grad. So we're going to be answering our questions this session, mainly talking about portfolio tips. I did add some slides today, so I'm very excited to see how that goes. But that being said, it is a Q&A session. It's going to be a really quick 10 to 15-minute presentation in the beginning, just to give you the sort of the do's and don'ts of what RISD is looking for in our graduate applications. Yeah, so you can start typing your questions as soon as now, as soon as you want. Make sure you type them in the Q&A portion of Zoom and not the chat. That way we can keep track of them, because as I talk about certain things, Jen's going to be putting some helpful links in the chat. So did I miss anything else, Jen? Did I miss anything there?
That covered most of it, Molly.
All right, cool. Well, let's jump right in then. So welcome everybody again. Thank you so much for coming. Today we're going to be focusing on portfolio tips and questions pertaining to that graduate application at Rhode Island School of Design, which I will now call RISD from here on out. So first step, you have to apply by January 6th. This is important. You know, I made a plug for this last time, and I'll say the same thing again this time. I think it's really advantageous for students to start their application as soon as possible. Not because it gives you any leverage at all. We look at all of the grad applications on January 6th or January 7th. But if you don't go in there and see all the nuts and bolts of how things work, it can be a little bit, you can catch you off guard, potentially. We do use Slide Room, which is a different application to upload your portfolio, which we'll dive into a little bit. So anybody who hasn't started their application yet, do so today. That's very important. Jen, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. We ask that you start your application now and not wait till the last minute. Just so you know, like RISD as an institution is closed from Monday, December 23rd to until January 2nd. Mind you, we're still like working behind the scenes, but we're technically off. So there might be a delay in getting your questions answered if you email us during that time. So if you want to like be able to go and enjoy the holiday with peace of mind, you know, start your application now, ask your questions now, because we'll respond faster now. So just wanted everyone to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and hopefully today you'll learn a lot about what we're looking for. Every graduate application that you're applying to, every different school that you're applying to could be asking for very different things. So start the application now so you really understand what is required and what is not for each school and each different department and so on. Okay, so the portfolio in the broadest terms, most departments, other than a very few that have specific requirements, most departments here at RISD, we have 18 graduate departments. You do have to choose one department to apply to. We are looking for 10 to 20 images of your work. We'll get into what that means in a minute. We want you to focus on the program that you're going into. However, if you are coming from a different educational background, we want to see your best work. So really making sure that we're seeing your best work, not you trying to make your work look like the program that you're going into. Okay. So visual perspective, broad strokes here. We want to understand your visual perspective and who you are as an artist, a designer, or an architect, or a researcher. We need to understand that through your portfolio. And if we can't understand that through your portfolio, then it needs some tweaking. Looks like, is everybody having issues with sound, Jen, or is it just one person?
Just raise your hands if you can hear us okay.
All right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure before we keep going that everybody can hear us. All right, so here are some examples of some students and how they've photographed their work. So these are students from Julia Metalsmithing. You can put them on a body if they're meant for the form of the body. You can put them on a table. This person decided to use a colored background. So those are all decisions that you can make regardless of what program you're applying to. They're all decisions that you can make. This other student, Yuxin Long, they decided to use a black and white close-up, very pointed lighting to show this work, because an image really should be arresting in this way. You want to show your work in the best light possible and not just show your work. You want to do a good service by showing us the way in which you intend it to be viewed. So here are some examples here. Here's some architectural examples, renderings and drawings. Sometimes are very, in models even, are sometimes very hard to understand which is which, because we're viewing all of the portfolios online. So in the description or in the additional information in slide room, it will ask you, what is the medium? When we say medium, we're asking, how was it made? What is it made with? So is it made drawing on paper or graphite on paper? Is it a model made out of chipboard, or is it a CAD drawing, right? So, or is it rendering? So we need to understand that context. Without it, we have no idea. So here's another example of some work, happens to be ceramics, but again, you can think about this in any three-dimensional terms, having that kind of bird's eye view, looking at the ceramic piece, having sort of a different view, looking at the body or the figurative piece here, looking at the lighting so one of them chose a white background, one of them chose a purple background, both at different lighting. So look to see how you can best photograph or utilize how your intentions of how the piece should be viewed to then submit it and put it in as part of your portfolio. Here we have some more options for, say, digital media. If it's something like you want to show 3 different images on one page, just one image, maybe a movie. Here's an example of maybe something that might be full bleed because it's a flat 2D surface. Whereas another one where these sort of imposter kind of tarot cards, you can have up to this much on one page, but you can understand that because visually they're very simple. They're not complex images, right? If they're extremely complex, let's say for an architecture student, each image is extremely complex, we won't be able to zoom in and we won't be able to see it. So this is sort of the smallest text I would go if you put text on a page at all. Some other options are GIFs. I think for designers, this is helps us understand the texture of the fabric or of the medium that you're using. In this case, a throw rug, curling it up on one side, really giving us a sense of that three-dimensionality. If your work is a moving image, then obviously we want to see that image moving, using a GIF, a movie, anything that you can to be able to show us, again, the way in which you want to be viewed. Okay. Keep typing your questions in the Q&A, and we will continue to answer them as they come. So make sure you're putting them in the Q&A for afterwards. So some tips here. 1 upload per page, so or per image, really. Slide Room, if you go to slideroom.com, and I'm sure Jen will just throw in the link to the Slide Room format where you can find all of their do's and don'ts there. Slide Room is an image viewing platform, so therefore you can submit PDFs, you can submit JPEGs or movies. We want to see 1 upload, minimum 10 uploads, maximum 20 uploads. That upload is 1 page. And I'll show you what I mean by that later on. You can put multiple images on 1 page. I'll also show you some examples of that. The work that you're showing should be recent work. It should not be work that you did in high school just to show that you did some drawing work. I'm sure you could do something much better now and you have time. Redo it right now. You know, there's no reason to show something really that old that you could do better now. Making sure, again, like I said, you're having great photos of the images of your work, or if it's not a photo, maybe it's a moving image, maybe it's an installation shot, like the next bullet point here. If it's an installation, that sometimes gives us a sense of scale and context, that can be critical. Detail, only when needed, really thinking about detail, in terms of, would I understand this piece if I didn't show you more detail? Okay, that would be the question for you. Doesn't matter if you have a BFA, a BA, or a BS. It doesn't matter what kind of bachelor's degree you have to have a bachelor's degree. But I want you to think outside the box when we're talking about a portfolio, because you might not have the kind of portfolio that you're thinking about in your head, if you didn't go through sort of a studio or undergraduate design program, right? So I've seen some really great things coming from a student who was a performance artist, or she was in school for performing arts. And she had some claymation work and she wanted to go into graphic design. So she used that claymation work to kind of bridge the gap. And it was great. It was humorous. It was great. A great way to sort of, very clever way to bridge the gap between your undergraduate education and what you want to do here. Use Slideroom to your benefit. Like Jen and I said earlier, get in there sooner rather than later. What that means is you have to start your application today so that you can get that link to Slideroom and start understanding and navigating what that looks like. Medium, I've been referring to medium or media. They mean the same thing. What we're talking about with here, when we talk about media or medium, we're talking about the material that is used. So is it a painting? Is it a plaster sculpture? Is it foam core? So what is it made out of? And again, the media can be multimedia. It doesn't have to be just one. We want you to name them though, all of them, so that we understand how things are made and what they're made out of. It gives us context. So here's what I mean by a page. This is one upload. This is one page. You can have one image on this page. You could have 4 different images on this page. I say 4 is a maximum, and I just drew this morning. I just drew 4 boxes, just 4 boxes, just to represent. Maybe you have 4 different images you want to show on this page. I would not show any more than 4, because then it starts to get what we call crowding the page, and I'll talk about the that and the don'ts, and the tips of what not to do. You can use your page like a landscape. You can do portrait, you can do landscape, and that's helpful too sometimes if you want to split the page in the middle, right? Anything you want to add, Jen?
Yes, so when you're in Slideroom, each slide is going to give you the option that you can submit multiple slides within one slide. I know that sounds crazy, but you'll see once you get into Slideroom. We don't want that. As Molly mentioned, you'll see this image right here, but what's on the screen right now is considered one slide. We want that 10 to 20 times. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Upload it. 1, 2, 3, then keep going.
Each one of those will allow you to submit more than that, but that's not what the faculty are looking for. That's not what we're looking for, you know, so.
Right, and that's why we say 10 to 20.
Mhm.
That's 10 to 20 pages. You have to be the editor, be the critic. You need to choreograph your 10 to 20 images and upload them separately, not as one page PDF. That is the challenge of the application. That is what we're asking you to do as part of our application requirements to get into grad school at RISD. That is probably not the case everywhere else you're applying, and that's totally fine. But we're telling you that do not upload multiple page PDFs at any point in time throughout uploading your portfolio. So that's our first bullet on what to avoid and what not to do. Also, text on the page is very hardly legible. I would say a large or medium size is the smallest you would go. And sometimes it can be nice to have some legible text that's in a large format to understand what project, or maybe what, if there's a sort of a larger project that you worked on as part of a solar decathlon or something else, it's nice to have that text. But I want you to also know that if it's really small text, even though you think it's important, we can't read it. It just looks like a gray blob. There is a part of Slideroom that allows you to 1,000-word description. You can copy and paste that right over there. But make sure that the work is speaking for itself. You don't want the text to be completely overshadowed. We want to see the work. We want to see the images that you made, whether they be in theory or practice. The quality of the images is really important, as I've mentioned before. Making sure that you have high resolution images, so that way there's no problem with us seeing any kind of pixelation or blur. Stay away from skill-based work. This means I've done printmaking, I've done photography, I've done installation work, I've done performance, I've done video, film. I don't need to know all of that. What I need to know in your portfolio is how are you utilizing all of those tools and what are you making now? That's the most critical thing. So in your portfolio, I would beware of showing us all the skills that you know. I want you to know, I want to see how you're using your skills and why you're using them. That is the more important question. Also staying away from assignment-based work. Now, this happens frequently with students who are just out of undergrad, where their professors are giving them assignments and they have to then do the work for that assignment. It doesn't allow you much autonomy in terms of the decisions that you're making in the project. This has more, I think, to do with design and architecture folks to sort of reconcile because you know you're bound to have some assignment work as long as credit is given. We explicitly understand what you did in the project. For fine art students, if you're given an assignment by a fine art student, that should not be in your portfolio at all. No way, Jose, because that is way too, feels very far away from what we're looking for. What we're looking for is to understand your voice, your visual perspective, and if it's an assignment given by somebody else, then your perspective is not given. Just, so that's it.
And
Yeah, Jen.
before we move on, I just start a quick question. And while we're on the page, I just want to really dig deep in this. The multi-page PDF. So a lot of you probably already have a nice, neat, bundled, multi-page PDF that has all your work in it, and you're hoping to just go into Slideroom and upload that document. Slideroom will not let you do that. You need to upload at least a minimum of 10 slides. So you'll be forced to break that PDF up into individual pages and then upload that into Slideroom. We also do not want you to upload the same multi-page PDF 10 times to meet that requirement. Because then it's like, if it's like a 50-page PDF, it's like, I don't know, it ends up turning out to be 300 pages. We don't want that. So
and 50, it does not follow the directions that we've given. Max 20. You got to get it down to 20. If that's difficult, it's meant to be difficult. It's meant to be a challenge. So just know that there are other students that are taking on that challenge, and those are the students that are really going to be looking to you know, to see that they followed the directions, you know. So it's definitely a challenge. I'm not saying it's easy by any means, you know, and I think, Jen, that's the key here. It is supposed to be a challenge. Yeah, thank you for really explaining that further, because we'll continue to explain it too if there's more confusion. So the other thing is renderings and handmade work. We need to understand, is something fabricated or did you make it? So that kind of context can come, you know, it can be really critical for someone like maybe in textiles or maybe in furniture design. If you had something fabricated or a piece of a tool that you used for the larger piece, right? So we just need to understand what is a rendering, what is handmade, what is fabricated, and giving credit to, you know, those larger group project types of things. Crowding, we already talked about crowding, what that was in our last here. You know, this is not crowding. This is not crowding. If you had 6 of these on this page, and they're all very, very detailed images, that would be crowding. You can see how I gave some sort of border space to some of these. It's just an example. You can go right up to full bleed if you need to, but sometimes I suggest to see the edge in case it is a 3-dimensional object or a painting or a photograph. You can see how it is meant to be seen. Look, bird's eye view, straight on, so on and so forth. Excuse me. So other things to think about. Your statement of purpose is critical because it helps us understand how well you communicate. In a program that you're going to be going into, you are going to be expected to talk about your work. You're also going to be expected to explain your work so you can receive feedback about your work and progress in your practice. So the statement of purpose is a really great identifier for us to see if you are well versed in sort of the things that you want to talk about, or the questions that you have, or what you want to do here. But really, in broader terms, think about the statement of purposes. Why do you want to go to grad study? Why now? Why RISD? And why this program? Those questions should be answered in the statement. Letters of recommendation, for those of you who've been out of school for a while, they can be both academic or professional references. Doesn't matter. You need at least 2, but we typically prefer 3. They can be directly put into the application. No need to send them via mail. No need to send them yourself. Actually, we pray you don't send them yourself. We want to see them sent through the application system. That way we can verify that you you haven't seen them, which means you're going to get a letter that is true and something that we can rely upon. Resume and CV, do not put this in your portfolio. Actually, don't put any of these things in your portfolio, because there's a place to put them in the application. Again, going back to the idea of starting your application today, you're going to get a better sense of what we're talking about. All of these things are going to start to fall in place for you. Your resume and CV can be uploaded as your part of your application. Do not put it in your portfolio, it'd just be redundant. And of course, if you have any more questions really detailed about your program, you can always contact Jen or I. We are the only ones answering this email for grad, so please do give us some grace in terms of the timeline. We are aiming for 24 to 48 hours and getting back to you, though. And I'm gonna leave this page up for a minute, just so everybody knows it's here. I know we have lots of questions. Jen, where do you want to start?
All right, we'll just dive right in, Molly.
Let's
Okay.
just dive right in. Let's just do it.
And I know you just touched upon this, so I just want to mention it again. We don't want, if your portfolio, your curated, PDF, remove any cover page. We don't want a cover page. We don't want a table of contents. And again, we don't want your CV. We don't want to see any awards that you've received. Don't put that in your portfolio. You can put that in your application. We just want to see images in your actual portfolio. All right, diving into the first question. Photography, would you recommend submitting 1 or 2 projects?
It really depends on if your projects go 10 and 10, then cool. But if projects go 15 and 5, you can always provide a link to your website if they want to see more. But it just depends. If your work is your best work and most recent work is 1 project and that's 10 images, then great, submit that. You don't have to get to 20. That's the key.
Great. All right. What are the pieces communicating that stick out to admissions rather than the pieces that don't stick out?
What are the pieces communicating that stick out? Or the pieces that don't stick out? I think like the images I showed you of the student, of the work, the way that you photograph the work, the way that you show us the work matches the way you intend a viewer to walk in a room and experience your work. That stands out for sure.
Can we submit multiple images for a single project? Should we do that in 1 file or multiple files? Can we add a brief explanatory text to an image?
Jen, you wanna?
So, yes, so you can submit multiple image for a single project, but just know that's taking up your count, your 10 to 20 count. And like we mentioned earlier, you can add text, but get it out of the image. Put the text in the description section of SlideRoom.
Yep.
Here, I'm studying graphic design, but planning to apply for a printmaking program. Do you suggest putting my print design works in my portfolio, or should it just be orientated on the program that I apply to?
Well, so I think you want to show us your best work, but there's got to be some bridge to that gap in terms of why you're making the move from printmaking to graphic design. And you can address that in your statement of purpose, but typically for graphic design, most students have work experience that sort of says like, well, why would you want to pursue graphic design unless you've experienced it somehow? So I think putting in the showing work that you've done, like working in the field of graphic design can be helpful. But we do want to see what you're an expert in. And if you went for a printmaking degree, you're more than likely an expert in printmaking. So
Thank you. And I see some questions going into the chat. If you can make sure just to copy and paste that into the Q&A so we can make sure we answer them in order. All right, there's a couple of questions on dimensions and what is recommended in slide room. Can pages of work be varied in size? 8 by 11, 11 by 17, etc.
So really thinking about 8 by 11 inches, I say that because not everybody uses our awful units and metric system. 11 by 17 is going, if you go in a slide room now and you upload 11 by 17, it's going to look like this, or it's going to look like this, you know? So you really have to look at those formatting guidelines to help you with that. But think about it typically as like an 8 by 10, 8 by 11 is pretty much what slide room does.
And really, use your best judgment too. I mean, you're probably doing this on a laptop, most likely. Your reviewers are going to be reviewing this on a laptop. How does it look? Like, how does it look to you? Does it look clear? Is it communicating what you want it to do? Is it putting its best self forward? So just think about that when you're doing that. We do know for some architectures, you do have some larger images, and I believe I've heard Debbie mention 11 by 17s are okay.
Yeah, you just need to make sure it's coming through on our end okay. And you're more than welcome to email us an admission and say, how does this look? We're happy to help.
All right.
Um,
This is more of an academic program question. Molly, I'm not sure if you want to answer this one for this.
which one is it?
So this person is applying for a fashion design, fashion illustration master's program. Which
Yeah.
department will that be under, should they choose? Should they go to the illustration?
Yeah, we don't have a fashion design program at grad. We don't have a fashion illustration master's degree program at all. So you might want to consider a different school entirely. What we do offer is a master's of illustration, an MFA in illustration. And we do offer an MFA in textile design. Those have nothing to do with fashion design. There are wearables that are made in many different programs that we offer here. So I think your first question is answered by going to risd.edu, look at the academic side of the page, look at all of the graduate programs to see which one best aligns with what you want out of a graduate program. But just saying a lot about fashion means that we might not have that program. While we do have apparel design on the undergraduate level, we do not have it at the graduate level.
Thank you, Molly. For the requirement to include the medium, year, and a 4-sentence description, is it necessary to incorporate this text into the slide layout, or will there be fields in slide room to input this information? As we mentioned earlier, there will be a section in slide room for this. So all text should be taken out and put into the description section of slide room.
Yep. Thank you.
Any limits to how much submission per medium?
Yeah, 10 to 20. I don't care what the medium is. You have a page, you put an image on there, and you tell us what medium that image is, whether it be a movie or maybe out of wood or a painting or, a photograph. That's what I mean by medium. So.
This is another academic, curriculum question. This person's pursuing a master's degree to be able to teach at the university level. Should they enroll in the MFA program or an MA program? Doesn't matter. Additionally, do your programs offer assistantship opportunities or opportunities to get experience teaching at the college level?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the terminal degree to teach at the college level, particularly within the fine arts, is an MFA. Or if it's in, industrial design, MID. There are other countries that offer PhDs, but the US does not. So the terminal degree is an MFA. If you receive an MA, that is more like your public school K through 12 teaching. It has nothing to do with collegiate teaching. There are collegiate teaching classes that you can take here at RISD. And in addition to that, we do offer teaching assistantships upon being accepted, you would know that right away.
Great, and I'm just dropping a link in the chat. It's to our collegiate teaching certificate program. You can accompany this with any degree program at RISD. So if teaching at the graduate level is something that you want to do, we would recommend that you add that option. And there's also options to teach in the winter session as well at RISD to kind of just build your experience there. All right, so we answered that question already. So all images in one slide counts as one image.
One page,
One
one page, multiple images on one page.
All right, let's see here. Do we have control over the sequence these pages appear for you?
Yes, 100%. Get into slide room, start your application. All these questions are going to be answered for you.
All right, this is a good question. When you say 20 images, does that mean 20 images of final good projects? Because I was wondering if someone was to show process behind it, like mind mapping, mood boards, or a design brief.
So, the things that we need to know, the only things we need to know about the project, the most critical pieces of the project. If you upload 20 images of one project, that's your 20 images, that's your 20 pages, you're done. And we've done floor plans, all the people that are reviewing your work, they're practitioners in design and architecture. So they'll know if you've edited it or not. If the floor plan is unique in its design and it's made to look as a mirror dance studio, let's say, that might be important to include because we don't understand the context of what the critical decisions you made in the project. But if it's just a floor plan to show us your ADA compliance, that's par for the course. That's something that we see regularly, and honestly doesn't tell us much about a project, except you can say that it's ADA compliant, unless there's a special, unique sort of way in which the building was built specifically for that requirement, right? So thinking about process behind it only, but critical to understanding the project as a whole. Critical.
Great.
That's a good question. Could skill-based work be relevant in the teaching and learning in art and design? Yeah, so that can be important, especially if you do want to teach in a certain area. That can be helpful, but yeah, they have specific requirements, so you can easily just go on to our website and look at the teaching, learning, art, and design, look at the MA requirements or the MAT requirements. We want to see your studio work, but we also want to see your GPA, which has to be a 3.0. Every other program doesn't have a GPA minimum, but that program does.
Right, this person, I feel like I don't fully understand this. What all does this handmade work you are saying to avoid entail? Could you please explain a little bit more?
So I'm not saying avoid handmade work. If you hand stitch something, we need to know that, right? So that's where the medium of hand stitched embroidery, whatever it is, cardboard glued together, that's handmade, right? Versus something that is made by a machine, made by CNC router, or maybe it's just a CAD drawing and it's a rendering. Just call it what it is so that we understand it.
Right, this is a good question. Can design work that was co-created commissions be submitted? For example, collaborations with a health researcher to envision and design an infographic.
100%. We just need to know explicitly what it is your job was in that project. What did you do? What outcomes did it have? Bigger though than that, you need to give credit to everybody who was a part of that project and making sure you are doing your due diligence to make sure that everybody is getting that you're not taking credit for somebody else, right? So, yeah.
When you mention avoiding assignment-based work for those of us from design backgrounds, is that a complete no, even if, let's say, the brief is set by us and there was creative freedom?
Yeah, I think there is creative freedom within every assignment. That's the idea of giving you an assignment to make you think a certain way. I've been a faculty member. I understand what this means, right? I say veer away from it. Doesn't mean there's no hard, fast rule that says don't do it, right? So if you think that we can learn something about you and there was enough freedom for you to make decisions in your design, go ahead and submit it. That's absolutely your own, choice to make, for sure.
All right, we always get this question. How important is the order in which we present the work? Should they focus on thematic progression, or is it better to highlight their strongest works first?
I always say it's nice to highlight your strongest works first, just because it shows us what you're really capable of and it gets us intrigued. However, if there is a theme that is essential, sequential, like piece that we will not understand unless it is sequential, then, maybe don't put the best work first. So if the theme is more important, then you're gonna might want to show us that theme or that sequence.
Thank you, Molly.
Yeah, and I just want to put a plug here. It depends what your work is. Depends what your work is. Come to a portfolio day, get a review to find out if you should have your work sequentially based or your best work first. We will help you answer those questions by looking at your work. We still have our remaining portfolio days. I'm actually going to be in Chicago this weekend for anybody who is Chicago based. We're going to be reviewing portfolios from 10 to 12 Central Time at the School of Art Institute of Chicago. So I'll be there reviewing work with some fellow alumni here at RISD.
Great, I'm just gonna drop a link to the grad NPDA for that event we're gonna be in Chicago and New York in November. You do have to register for these events online. They're not hosted by RISD, they're hosted by the National Portfolio Day Association. All right, let's see here. Can I write a short excerpt explaining my upload? I have done a lot of work in research regarding performance of textiles as well as color creation. Also, I'm worried I won't be able to qualify for the textiles program since I studied more on the technical side, but I'm definitely interested in the design aspect as well. So yes, you can put a description for your upload in the description section of Slideroom. That's not a problem.
Yeah, and I wouldn't worry about qualifying at all. I mean, you come from the same vein of, the medium, I think that's critical. And not just that, we get people coming into textiles from all different areas of fine arts and design, even architecture, even literary arts. So I think it depends what you're making right now, not necessarily what your background is.
What if an applicant is coming from a non-visual background and so doesn't yet have the required number of visual works to build the portfolio? Do you have any advice on building that portfolio?
Well, one, come to a portfolio day so we can give you those pointers. I do think mind maps and, mood boards and things like that can definitely help support where you want to go. But if you're applying to a fine arts program, you should be in high production, very, very high production. So you're making 50 of something and choosing maybe 10 of them to put in your portfolio. So I think that if you have zero experience in the area, that's going to be a tough bridge to get, tough place to come from.
In digital plus media, for the work descriptions, should we focus more on the technical aspects or the conceptual development behind each piece?
Both, if you can. 1,000 words, you should be able to really look at, we want to see the technical aspects and we need to see those. I actually had one student do like a 2-page landscape. One of them was, this rotating cylindrical movie figure, and the other one was the code that made the figure move based on the circadian cycle of the sun. So that's context. That's technical and conceptual. So think about, those not being so separate, but being sort of on the same playing field.
Great. And I also just want to note when I see digital plus media, that there are a handful of programs that have unique requirements for the portfolio, digital plus media being one of them. If your program has unique requirements, they will be listed within the application and on the website. If you don't see specific requirements, that means your program does not have any. It's just the basic minimum requirement, 10 to 20 examples of your work.
Yep.
But you want to pay close attention to those that do have the requirement. That's digital plus media, furniture design, industrial design, jewelry, metals, landscape architecture. The Masters of Art in Teaching and the Masters of Art in Education are the programs that have required portfolio requirements, have specific portfolio requirements. I've done my bachelor's in furniture design. Can I apply for MDes ENE? Yes,
100%.
great,
That's what we like to see. We like
perfect.
people crossing over those sort of boundaries that don't really exist anymore. That's the best part.
Next question. They've done their work in visual and UX design, which is majorly digital. So how do you suggest they present those?
Show us your digital work, whether it be still or moving. It's up to you. I think a gift sometimes can be really helpful.
If they have an artist book, size 3M, and the best form to show this is with black background, is it possible with a black background? This project has multiple images. Is it better to show all the book in general, or do I need to show every images per page?
So if you're showing a book in terms of graphic design, I think sometimes showing it in maybe 3 different pages of the book, just so you don't need to show us every page of the book that you made. Black background's totally fine. Just make sure that there is contrast so we can actually see the book. There's lighting, there's shadow, and so forth. But you don't need to show every single image of the page. I think sometimes, especially given its small size, you could potentially hold it in your hands and give us a video of you kind of browsing through it, because the hand, looking at a book, the hand's always going to give you some kind of sense of scale of how big the book is. So that could be something that you could try.
A good question for an architecture portfolio. I'm an architecture student, and my portfolio includes only my academic projects, which I've done during design studios. Is there any problem with that? I'm applying for a master's in architecture. Furthermore, should I mention the names of the projects?
So I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning, that, you really should think about, if you have to put in assignment-based work, take out only the critical pieces for us that we need to understand the decisions that you made that were unique to you as an architect. So you have to choreograph all those projects and works that you've done to 20 uploads, 20 pages of various works. And yeah, you can do the project on the page. You can title it if you want to, but I think that it's just more beneficial to have that project named inside of the spaces that slide room gives you for that, so that we can see the images.
Perfect. All right, sorry. Let's see here. I'm an expert in UX and graphic design. I have a BFA in graphic design and work experience, but want to pursue MFA in painting. I have some painting. Should I keep my portfolio submissions to paintings?
That's a really good question. Come to a portfolio day. I need to see the work. I can't really say yes or no to that without seeing it, to be honest with you. So you're gonna have to come to a portfolio day.
I've seen this question. Somebody else asked the question, but for
Yeah.
the same question, but for another program. I think in this case, in these situations, this is where your statement of purpose becomes really important. So they like, if somebody's just looking at that portfolio and they see all printmaking work, but you want to apply for painting, they're going to be like, well, why is this person applying to painting if they're doing printmaking work? That's where your statement of purpose comes into play here. So you can explain, a little bit why the shift and, why
Yeah.
you wanted to do that chosen program at RISD.
Yeah.
Right. What is the
Yeah.
best way to showcase 3D work in different angles? Would 2 to 3 images on one slide be okay?
Yeah, that's totally fine. But I also think just one arresting image, like think about that Julie Meadows like black and white piece. It was so arresting. It was just a beautiful image. I needed to know more, and I could know more if I wanted to. That sometimes is that one really arresting, beautiful, like like amazing image can take the place of 3 images any day. So I would always just say, if you have this really incredible arresting image of the work, that's by far better than all 3, do that. But if you need all 3 to understand it, then I understand that too. So
Perfect, all right. All right, we kind of already answered that as well. You mentioned, you touched upon this, but it is okay to add links in the description section of slide. And if, the reviewer, can click that to get some more context on the project. Yes, that's totally fine.
absolutely.
If I include collaborative projects in my portfolio, should I provide additional context about the roles of the other team members, or should I only focus on my individual contributions?
1, focus on your contributions. 2, you have to, not necessarily about the roles of the other team members, but you have to give the other team members credit. And then only show us like, or be very explicit about what you contributed to that project. Yeah.
Great.
Next question, will you be able to watch the session again? Yes. So if you email this email address right here, Jen or I will send you the link to this video and all the questions.
I'm just adding that in the chat now. If you want a recording of this, email us at admissions@risd.edu. Let's see here. I'm super concerned about the portfolio and focusing almost all of my attention on this. Is there anything else that you can find detrimental to a student being accepted at RISD besides the portfolio? Letters of recommendation, resume, accolades, GPA, etc.
No is the quick answer, but I have seen letters of recommendation that are less than impressive. And the reason for that is maybe they don't know anything about your work, so they're just writing about something random about you that doesn't tell us a whole lot. I don't want to go as far to say that it would really be detrimental, because it does kind of all come back to the portfolio. But 1, you want to be able to know that the people that you're putting in there as your recommenders know that they've been asked to let it write. So ask them first. This is where I think sometimes I see it being a detrimental thing if they're like, so and so asked me to do this and I don't know what they want me to say. So just make sure you're following directions. You're letting your recommenders know ahead of time that you'll be adding them into your RISD application. Send them a link to RISD, send them a link to what you want to do, send them a link to your current portfolio so they know what to talk about. I think that's the only place that I've seen something that could be better,
And then I just want to add too, when you're asking your recommenders, ask them if they can write you a strong letter of recommendation. That's the key word here. Can they write you a strong letter of recommendation? If it's just going to be filler, like, yes, this person worked with me, they came in on time, they have good work ethic, like that's great and all, but it doesn't help your case, doesn't separate you from any of the other applicants.
Right. We want to
ask them if they can write you a positive, glowing, recommendation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Jen.
All right, let's see here. What are the best master's programs at RISD to consider for anyone interested in data visualization or UX design?
You can do that in a lot of our programs, almost all of them. So depends on how you want to use it. Go in and look at all 18 programs, figure out which ones make the most sense for what your goals are. Look at the faculty bios. That's going to give you a big sense of, what industry are we connected to? Are they connected to? Look at the current student work. That's going to support your decision as well. I say that because I've seen people in landscape architecture, digital plus media, industrial design, graphic design, all use data visualization and UX design. So, and I also seen it in textiles too. So, I mean, I think it's depends on sort of where your foundation of as a designer or an artist, where you are, what your practice currently is, all those things.
Perfect. See here, does the portfolio have to be academic? Is there any problem if the work is done in the product production markets?
I think you can show us some examples of like products that you've helped design or branding that you've done. But it definitely doesn't give us a sense of your aesthetic. So we need to understand something about what you are doing with that assignment in product or branding. Like what is it that uniquely makes it yours as a designer? So you can use that. I just want to make sure that whatever it is that you do expertly is coming through.
Perfect. Okay, we still have a lot of questions. I was just looking through.
Yeah, I know we have tons of questions, guys. We're probably not going to get to all of them today, but again, we've answered a lot of them already. I see one here that I want to answer, Jen. And is there any minors? This one's asking about graphic design, but are there any minors along with any of our graduate programs? The quick answer is no, we don't do minors at the graduate level because these programs are so short, 1 year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. And there just is not enough time. That being said, you do have electives that are built into your program. And those electives help support what you want to do. So if you do every single one of those electives and let's say through FAV, film animation video, through our undergraduate program, that you wouldn't consider it a minor, but you might have the education and the support that you need to complete your graduate degree.
And I just want to do a little plug here while we still have a little bit of time, Molly.
Yeah.
For any of the people who submitted questions that are program specific questions, program specific curriculum questions, come to our online open house. I'm going to put a link in the chat now. We are hosting a 1-hour event for each of our 18 different degree programs. So if you have questions about digital plus media, attend the digital plus media session. It's hosted by the faculty, the graduate program director in that department, and he will be there to answer all of your questions. The same is for all of our programs. They're hosted by the graduate program directors in those departments. So I want to direct you sign up for those now. So you can start getting the reminder emails. We also have an in-person open house. It's our flagship only in-person event for grad that we have. That's on November 22nd. If you can get here for that, it's the one day where the departments are actually going to be open and you can explore the program that you're interested in person and see the studio spaces. All right, let's see here.
Someone wants me to go back to the what to do. So here are your tips, folks. You can screenshot it now. Hopefully you can remember, remind you of the things that it did. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and stop share. So we can answer some last minute questions here, Jen.
Yeah. Are you looking for any kind of continuity between projects in the portfolio, or do you consider it helpful to see a variety of medium and project types within one portfolio?
Depends on what program you're applying to, but usually we don't want to see the various skills that you've done. We want to see is how you're using those skills, why you're using those skills in your current practice. That's more important.
How detailed should the video demonstrating my research or work process be? Is there an example or reference level we should aim for?
I think you might be referring to a video essay. That should be short and sweet with your iPhone or with your phone. Take a quick video, understand your work, your process. Shouldn't be overproduced at all. We're hoping just to get a real authentic view into how you're making something, really.
And for those that are going to be uploading like video submissions in their portfolio, it shouldn't be more than what, 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes is the max, but really think about the attention spans of most people these days. Keep it to 1 to 2 minutes if you can.
All right, this is a good question. People are asking how the online portfolio day works. I shared a link for the sign up for that. So between 12 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll get a 10-minute block. In that block, you'll sign on to a Zoom. We will match you with a reviewer and you will have, you'll be in a breakout room. So it'll be one-on-one, you and a reviewer. All of our reviewers are RISD alumni, or Molly will be there as well. And they're giving you general guidance on your portfolio as people that have gone through RISD, who are now working in the field now. And so you take the recommendations with a grain of salt. It might not be somebody from your specific area. They're just giving you general guidance on your portfolio. You can submit a link to your work in advance, or you'll have the ability to share a link with your reviewer at the time of the review in the chat of Zoom, or you can share your screen. But it will be like a Zoom meeting in a breakout room, 10 minutes.
Yep. That's great.
All right. So during the portfolio review day, can we showcase our website, Behance, or should it be on Slide Room? So most people show their website, or they have a Google Drive with images.
Yeah,
they
I
wanna-
really wanna just like push this idea that we don't wanna see all the work that you've done and then we're gonna choose 10 to 20 images for you. Create the 10 to 20 for us as reviewers. You know, having a Behance that can be great, but if you don't, we don't know what you wanted to show us, you know what I mean? So have that to 20 kind of ready to go.
Mhm. All right.
We're just reading through some of these questions that are a little bit repetitive, guys, so hang on one sec.
So all the link for the online portfolio reviews are exactly that. They're all online. We're only doing 2 in-person portfolio review days hosted by the National Portfolio Day Association. That's in Chicago and New York, but all of our other reviews are online.
Yep.
All right. Make sure to take into consider the time zones when you're signing up for these. We've had a lot of people who skip them because they didn't take into consideration the time zone. So just keep that in mind.
So yeah, I'm looking at a lot of the questions we've already answered, so pretty darn good here. Oh, this is one good question. Can I send my portfolio via email? For a portfolio review, yes. For an application, no. You have to put it in Slide Room. If you have issues with that, email us and we'll help you.
All right. Here.
Lot of same questions, but
I see some like general admissions application questions. Just email those to us and I can get those out, answer those pretty quickly for you. So just email. I see questions about transcripts,
yeah,
letters of
recommendation.
recommendation. Just email. Those are easy. I'll get your answer to you pretty quickly.
Yep. And again, links right there to register for the virtual portfolio session. So hope to see you guys soon. We're gonna get on the road to Chicago this weekend. We have another MFA with faculty on Thursday this week. So if you want to hear directly portfolio tips, like exactly what we just said, from the faculty who are making the decisions on your application, sign up for those events. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Again, yeah, just email us. We're here to help you along the way.
Yep, sure are.
Right.